Have you ever watched a movie that felt entertaining, exciting, and kept you on the edge of your seat, all for it to just fall apart in the finale? It feels like betrayal, like you were robbed of the 2+ hours you had invested in a story just for the writers to give you one of the worst twists imaginable, such as, "It was just a dream," or "Everybody died." In the case of time travel movies, I feel like there are innumerable directions you can go. The laws of time travel are so malleable and fantastical that it's hard to go wrong with time travel movies. With one exception: fixed timeline time travel movies. Predestination builds everything on a fixed timeline, meaning nothing changes no matter what anyone does. In the film, our protagonist Jane starts out with this rare condition. She has both male and female traits. At one point, she gives birth to a child in a traumatic delivery that wrecks her reproductive organs, which reveal her condition and force a reconstructive surgery which turns her into John. Years down the line, John becomes a time agent, travels back in time, hooks up with the younger version of Jane, and fathers the kid, who turns out to be Jane all over again. From a scientific perspective, it makes sense. They all have the same DNA. Since they are the same person, the genetic code stays identical, looping perfectly. It's a clever little setup, I will admit. But here's the problem: it never tells us where this all begins. Look at Back to the Future for a second. Marty goes back to 1955 and messes with the event leading to his parents' meeting, and suddenly his own existence is on the line. That pulls you in because something's at risk. With fixed timeline movies like Predestination or even 12 Monkeys, you do not get that tension. The DNA angle is interesting, but without a clear origin, it feels like the film is dodging the hard part instead of nailing it.
This reminds me of Ocarina of Time. Link learns the Song of Storms from a guy who only knows it because Link traveled back in time to teach it to him. So who taught who first?
Well, that is what we call the Bootstrap Paradox, something that exists without ever having a real beginning. In Predestination, Jane and John are the paradox. They are their own parent, their own kid, all in one endless cycle. The movie tries to sell this as a mind-blowing reveal, but it doesn't hit the mark for me. Sci-fi can push boundaries, no question, but a person coming from themselves with no quote-unquote before feels like too much to swallow. Compare that to the butterfly effect. Evan keeps jumping into his past, changing little things, and every time he does, the whole world shifts, sometimes into something dark and messy. That keeps you glued because his decisions actually matter. Fixed timeline films like this one do not offer that pull. Imagine if Predestination gave Jane a normal life first, parents, a childhood, then dragged her into this loop later. That would give the paradox some real weight. Right now, it is more of a letdown than a wow moment. If Jane had a regular start, a mom and a dad, a normal life, before time travel stepped in and turned everything upside down, that would make you see the entire situation in a new light. In the movie, Jane is born in 1945, and time travel gets invented in 1981. So picture her growing up, dealing with this condition, but otherwise just living, until the agency pulls her into their world. Then, time travel kicks in and rewrites her story, locking her into this loop. It would not be a "this was always her fate" type of story. It would be like a life taken over by technology. Think about Edge of Tomorrow. Tom Cruise's character Cage gets stuck in a time loop, but he fights tooth and nail to change the outcome, and every loop he makes progress, changes little things until he starts changing major things. It keeps you on edge. That is what grabs you. Predestination hints that the agency might be tied to her fate, but it never goes there. Why not show us Jane before the loop, then throw her into it? You would have a story with some real punch, technology stealing her shot at normal instead of a weak "it always happened" handwave. And this is where fixed timeline movies really lose me. They have no stakes to hold on to. John is out there running down clues, throwing punches, looking like he's on some big mission. But then you realize it is all locked in. Nothing he does can shake things up. Predestination sets up this tension, gets you invested, and then pulls the rug out from under you. And when you think about it, it was over before it even started. That feels like betrayal, honestly. You watch thinking there is something at stake, and when the fixed timeline reveal hits, you are left feeling robbed, like the movie tricked you into caring. Look at Looper instead. Every move Joe makes immediately affects the future version of himself who is currently in the present, and you are right there with it, pulse racing and all. Non-fixed timeline time travel movies keep you invested because something's on the line. Fixed ones, like Predestination or 12 Monkeys, might look sharp, but they do not deliver that payoff. If John had even the slightest chance to break his loop, just a spark of possibility, it would hook you. Without that, it's a good-looking shell with nothing inside.
That's great.
Fixed timeline films like myself are genius. You don't appreciate the work that takes to write up a story where everything is connected, beginning, middle, and end.
I understand that perspective, but having a connected story in that manner doesn't mean you can't have real stakes. Ensuring that no matter why you travel to the past or what you do while there, the outcome and story are unchangeable kind of defeats the human intrigue of time travel. Why go back in time to warn people about 9/11 if you know it'll happen anyway and you can't save anyone? Why go try and kill baby Hitler if you know you'll fail? Give us something to hope for, something to care about. So how else could this story pull us in? Instead of just explaining the loop, what if Predestination gave us a moment where it could actually break? Picture John facing a choice late in the game. Stick to the script he's been handed or take a wild swing at changing it, even if it risks everything. Maybe he finds a glitch in the agency's tech, a split-second chance to rewrite one move. That would flip the fixed timeline on its head. Suddenly there's doubt, a shot at something new. Look at source code for a second. Jake Gyllenhaal's character is stuck in an 8-minute loop, reliving a train bombing, but every run, he gets closer to cracking it open. Not just replaying fate, but fighting it. That tension keeps you locked in. Predestination could use that kind of spark. A hint that the loop isn't ironclad. It would turn a flat paradox into a real story, one where you are rooting for John to defy the odds instead of watching him march in circles. Predestination does a lot well. Great visuals, an interesting premise, great acting, but it doesn't stick with you. Jane/John having no origin feels like a cheat, not a creative win. The fact that there are no stakes, and that robbed feeling when you realize it, drains the life out of the movie. Fixed timeline movies like this or 12 Monkeys do not stack up to Back to the Future's Thrill, The Butterfly Effect's Chaos, or Looper's Edge. Give Jane a real start, let John push against the loop, and it could have been something special. As it stands, it is a paradox that looks clever but ultimately is just empty. Thanks as always for watching. I have a few ideas for videos planned, but I could always use some more ideas. Are there any movies or shows that you feel you need a visual explanation of? Or do you have a theory on a film that you feel deserves a bit of a deep dive? Or maybe an underrated gem that needs a bit of time in the spotlight? Please leave your comments below and stick around to see the hint at the end for the topic of my next video.